Mm, well, I'm a weed man.
Yes, sir.
I've been known to smoke
Yes.
fatties. My favorite thing to do is to like talk about weed like someone who has no idea what it is.
Yes. Pete, welcome to the show, Leftist and Chill. How you doing today? Welcome.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Woke up bright and early, I think at like 5 something, and I've just had the itch all day.
That itch. Yeah.
Yeah, like I found myself checking both my like email on my phone and email on my laptop, and I felt like an android. Does that ever happen to you?
I often have like Twitter on my monitor here, and I'll have
Yeah.
like DMs, then I'll have like Twitter on my other monitor there, and that'll be like tweets and stuff. And then for some reason, I'll just grab my phone and then I'll put Twitter there, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, it's insane. I like to think about all the cables and things that we have. Like, if you have the phone connected to the wall and your laptop's like all wrapped up with you.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. It's, I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. Is that what we're getting at here? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Pete, dude, we invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. In that spirit, thank you for being willing to join me. Thank you for being willing to talk about your life and some life tips. And we got the leftist inquisition later. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, give yourself the big shout out. What do you do? Where can people find you? And who are you?
Well, I am Pete Ivanecky. I am the producer on A Time of Monsters, which is a leftist podcast based out of Atlanta, hosted by Aaron Thorpe. You might know him as Thaddeus Stevens. It's Thaddeus Stevens now, but he used to be Posada's Trap God. We make a good show. It's me, it's Aaron, and our friend Alex. On the weekends, we try and put out a weekly update. But other than that, it is interviews with Aaron, and they are some of the most like impressive like interviews. He's got a real mind for it, and love working on it. And yeah, Southern leftists and solidarity with the Midwest, obviously, and the coasts. Of course, the coasts. Yeah, I mean that's what I've been up to for the past several months. Yeah, yes. Oh yeah, no, we well, you can find so many like sneaky maneuvers with audio. Like my favorite thing is to take like if someone kind of like repeats a word a couple of times, kind of like stitch 2 words together and make it just seamless.
You can't hide when someone's muted. It's patently clear when someone's talking and they're muted though on video. It's a lot harder to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do notice that as sort of being a limitation of doing it live on video. I seem to like it though, as long as I fuck up less. I've learned to actually
live video, like this is a whole different, like, I don't totally understand like the Twitch, the live stuff. Like I do come from like a film background. Like I went to college, Emerson College in Boston for film. But like I recently remembered that my actual degree says like directing narrative fiction, which sounds like the most absurd degree. But they also have degrees in comedy over there, so it's not the most absurd degree that I could have.
I've heard of worse. Yeah. Nice.
But like the idea of doing live video and doing all of it, like I know Kenzo, like he's been doing the live shows. I know that
that's me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. And our comrades over at Hot Girl Agenda, they've been doing some live stuff, and I just like, it always blows me away seeing some of the comrades doing the live like video, because it's like a whole different world than like the one I'm familiar with. Like I used to edit like stitched together film with tape, so like it's
it's hard. You got to get your transitions down and lots of little things. I love it. I love doing it live. I don't know what it is, but yeah, different, definitely really drastically different approaches. And Pete, the idea here is that we are sort of planting seeds. This is a first round interview, or is what we're calling this. And this is, we definitely have a pretty strict format here that we'll dig into in just a moment. But we're planting a seed right now, and that's definitely one I want to keep digging into and spelling out for just talk it out between each other, but also of course spell it out for the audience. It's cool to learn something, but it's better to share it, and that's why we do it live, baby. That's why we share our podcasts, etc. Okay, so Pete, let's ask you a little bit more. One thing I love to do is ask how we know each other. I think we know each other through Kenzo. You were on his show, right? You were a guest.
I streamed with you guys on was it Meet the Left?
It's Meet the Left. It was previously Pardoned the Ignorance, but I think it was Meet the Left by that point. Yeah. You were on the producer show.
Yes.
That was especially long. That was, I think, the longest episode we've ever had. I was just like, I think I actually typed something pretty passive aggressive in the chat. I'm like, wrap it up, guys, or something like that. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no. I mean, I'll never forgive you, obviously, because I cannot be told to wrap it up. No, I appreciate it. Like, I was filling out like some sort of job interview today where they were like, can you take feedback? And I was like, please give me feedback. Yeah. Please tell me to like stop.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So that was nice to get to meet you there. And that was actually a really fun episode. It was long, but it was a great time. Let's see, what else? Can we dig a little bit more into your current projects, what you're currently up to, Pete? If you want to talk more about A Time of Monsters, any other projects that you work on, professional or leftist related, anything that's keeping you busy these days, and then we'll talk about hobbies afterwards.
Well, I've recently fallen kind of like out of love with video games. That's become like a thing that I'm grappling with, and it's because I don't know, like that's just something that's on my mind lately. It's not a leftist thing, but it is like a thinking back on like the past year and some of the things that we've all done to like not just pass time, but try and make time valuable. I feel like I haven't been making enough of my time valuable. And so I've gained this kind of like resentment for some of my like Aaron on A Time of Monsters talks about the spectacle a lot. And I feel like I'm very like prone to falling into the spectacle.
What is that? Yeah.
So if I had, it's an idea from Guy Debord.
Yeah.
And Aaron loves to talk about it. But like as
Society of the Spectacle.
Exactly.
I was talking with Justin about this yesterday. Okay.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like as I understand it, it's like kind of the draw of all things away from organization, away from kind of focused efforts to progress a left agenda. And, that can be things like TV and movies, but it can also be like the spectacle of given like political figures and their interactions with one another.
It's like a distraction?
Yeah. That's sort of as I understand it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that would be the more learned interpretation. But like that's sort of how I've interpreted it. And I feel like I'm trying to get involved with Rogelio. He's in Atlanta. He's running for Atlanta City Council, District 4, working with DARK ATL, which is defund APD, refund communities. I'm trying to get involved with them and actually try and try and use some of my skills, like skill sets, for something that's productive, which is something that I get out of A Time of Monsters every time that we record, every time I edit it. I can't recommend having like a project, some kind of project, enough. Like you have to feel like you're putting something back out. Like we eat all this food, right? Like we eat all the food and we consume all the energy. What are we putting it out? If not like CO2 and hopefully something good. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now, is that I'm trying to spend less time on the spectacle, less time doing video games and like kind of goofing off. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think that it's valuable. But I feel like I've been doing it for the past year and I got to do a little more,
Okay. Yeah, that's a seed, baby. That's a seed. We're going to talk about that more. And, as you know, at towards the tail end of the show, I'm going to be asking you your favorite book. I do think Debord, I do think that's been mentioned, if not once, but twice. And I don't know, maybe this is one of those things that's going to push me over the edge, and I'm going to read that fucking book, right?
I keep hearing recommendations for it. It keeps cropping up, so I'm going to have to.
Yeah, definitely would love to continue that conversation too. All right. So, well, I was just going to ask you about your hobbies, but now I feel almost guilty asking you about your hobbies. Do you want to talk about your hobbies? What do you do when you're not busy? Yeah.
Well, I've been watching a lot more movies. So like in my transition out of like being in fake worlds, it's just other fake worlds, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday I watched Hard Candy and almost passed out.
Hard Candy. Okay. Yeah.
That was my experience with that. Yeah. So I needed to hobbies. So like that would be movies, video game. Basically, if it comes via a screen, I'm probably somewhat interested. I used to write and like do movies, like little movies, a lot more often. So that's also something that I'm trying to pursue with organizing efforts, like trying to take it out of the hobby space, right?
Yeah. Awesome. And I'm just remembering before you're talking about recommending having a project, and I love that. I love that bit. That's how I feel about, my project Meet the Left, which I do with Kenzo Shibata. It's just a great opportunity for me to put myself in a position where I can listen to a vast diversity of different viewpoints coming in on a show, and it being a productive space to listen to them instead of being a spectacle debatey space.
Yeah. The debate thing is it's like it's fascinating in the same way that I guess like a car crash is fascinating.
Some more than others.
Like it's like I don't think that it's necessarily like, I don't know. I guess it would depend on the given like debate stream, but I don't think it comes from necessarily like always a bad faith place. it just seems like because of the way that our like media flow works, it tends to encourage that, right? Like within the algorithm.
Pete, did you see the video, the debate with Destiny and Richard Wolff?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Capitalism v. socialism. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that? What do you think? How do you think that went?
Well,
let me find this graphic. It's going to blow your mind. Yeah. They made this graphic, and they called it the biggest debate of all time or something. And they had this amazing.
See, I love that. I love some of the pitching for some of the debates. Like, actually, I think that my favorite part of any debate is,
sorry.
Oh, I like that though.
Hold on, there we go.
Oh, whoa!
It looks a little weird.
What am I looking at?
The biggest debate in history. Look at this thumbnail. I wonder what you think about this.
I appreciate the Street Fighter versus in there.
Yeah, versus. Yeah, that's well seen, well spotted.
Okay.
Funny.
And
yeah.
Did you catch this debate? How'd it go down?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was fascinating. It was like Richard Wolff was giving a lecture on socialism, and one that if you've heard him give lectures on socialism, it was not entirely unfamiliar, but one in which it seemed like they just allowed a petulant chud child to interrupt every now and then, and Richard Wolff would dick slap him down and just sort of continue the lecture. That's what it felt. There was several times where Destiny pretty much used his time to ask Richard Wolff to define socialism, which he asked like several times, and which Richard Wolff did. At which point he asked him to define capitalism. If I were in a debate with Richard Wolff, I would just ask him to define words the whole time too.
You know,
unless I'm debating about opinions about food. I'm not going to argue capitalism v. socialism with Richard Wolff. First of all, I'm on his side, but still, you get the idea. Exactly. And then the thing is this thumbnail, Pete, it doesn't leave any room for growth. Where do thumbnails go from here? All right.
I mean, like, I just kept looking over what appeared to be Destiny as the predator, and kind of marveling at that. And then I would catch the laser eyes, and it's just bouncing back and forth. Graphic design is my passion.
Yeah. It sort of blows me away. I'm not going to lie. It's actually sort of, I hate it, but I love it. It does this thing where I hate it, but I love it.
I want it to be painted.
I would love that. Yeah. Just on my ceiling. Okay. Well, maybe we'll be able to talk about that later as well. Yeah. We'll give you a chance to check that out down the road. We'll maybe loop back and talk about it. Okay, so now I'm going to ask if we can move forward. We've already moved past the where are they now. We're going to ask you about your leftward bound journey, Pete. This is a little chat about your pathway towards leftism. You don't have to define your ideology if you're not comfortable doing that. You're encouraged to do so. However, let's start the conversation there and see where it goes. Your leftward bound journey, Pete.
Well, I would, so I grew up in Atlanta, like the Atlanta area, right?
All right.
I'm actually living pretty much where I started growing up.
Hey.
So it's been kind of a full circle thing, but I wouldn't say that like obviously a leftward bound journey is somewhat linear. It's not but like, from where I grew up, I ended up going pretty far outside Atlanta to a town called Newton, and I was in this really small school, really southern, like predominantly white, like very predominantly white environment, and I kind of fancied myself, because I came from the Atlanta area, to be something of like a big fish in a little pond as far as like ideology. Like, so I fancied myself like, a big lib, essentially. I thought that was about as far as you could go. But then I went to college in Boston, and talking about like being dick slapped, like I got slapped hard, like in the face with a lot of different ideas and stuff that I hadn't heard before. And I think I realized in college kind of more of my like conservative tendencies. And I thought that was like really illuminating. Like, I don't hold those same feelings today. And like, but I also want to say that like I had some resistance. Like I wasn't sure about like, some of these things, and I was on Tumblr, and I was trying to like learn.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think that the most important thing is listening and really being open to new information, new perspectives. If I wouldn't have considered, if I make this kind of joke, am I an asshole? Is that what I want to do? Like, when I make a joke, how do I want people to feel? Like, when I make a movie or something, how do I want people to feel about like the characters and how they interact with each other, and like what the dynamics, like the power dynamics of those things are in this world and in the world at large. And it became impossible really to hold the same kind of conservative beliefs that were around me growing up down in the South. Now, I also came back with a lot more perspective, spent some time in New York, kind of got slapped back down to earth. And like, I've been in Atlanta ever since, and the community that's down here, the left community, is much stronger, I think, than it gets credit for. But being down here and being able to meet with people like Aaron on the podcast, like, it's revelatory. So that's been kind of my journey, is trying to stay open to new stuff and always be ready to be wrong. Like, ready to be like, oh, like I fucked up or something, or I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, not tell me what to think, right? Like, but tell me how you understand. And I think that that's a good way to relate to people, left or right.
I think that's fantastic stuff, Pete. I respect a lot of that very, very deeply, especially that right there at the end. But I wonder if we can dig in a little bit more,
Sure.
a little bit more into your leftward bound journey. I want to ask if there are other aspects of politics or theory or thinking of history, maybe more personal experiences. Effectively, the heart of this question is, what pulled your heart? What emotionally convinced you, and what pulled your mind? What intellectually convinced you and pulled you to the left? You mentioned specifically being in Boston, going to college, being open to being wrong and listening. Perhaps that threads in there. But yeah,
sure.
What pulled your heart and your mind to the left?
I took a class on social movements in the U.S. while I was at Emerson. And while I was not always my like best, most conscious self in college, and I mean that in terms of like, smoking and drinking and such, what I do and did really take away from that class is that social movements have to be willing to regroup and reassess tactics to recognize like when an action is not successful, when it is successful, but still be willing to come back and go, okay, how can we improve things? How can we attack this problem in a different way? I think that trying to have that perspective was a huge part, not just for me, because I had to look at it personally as like a member of society, and recognize that I would need to regroup, but also that in the future, when I got involved, that we're not always going to win. We're almost certainly not going to win like every time or even most of the time. That will involve being, crushed. Sometimes that will involve having like narrow margins where, you still come short. As far as theory goes, I'm not a theory guy. I'm a feelings guy. like I admit to not having done my reading. What I was going to mention during the bit about the debate stream that you were talking about is that I do keep with me a copy of Marx's. It's a copy of Capital, but it's an illustrated version because I'm a big visual learner and I love comic books. So like what I needed, and I knew I would need it, is like something that would translate some of these concepts over to me with like, graphs, and there's like little cartoons in the margins and stuff. Like it's been hugely helpful for me. And I was going to say that it seems like before you get into a like debate with someone like Richard Wolff or something, that you would think that you would want to read up and at least do like illustrated Capital.
Is this it?
Like, yep, that's the one.
Oh, I want it so much.
Oh, it's great. I highly recommend it.
Oh my God.
Like it
I
takes
can't read,
a lot. Yeah, like it takes all the pain out of it. Like I promise. Like highly recommend.
All right. Awesome.
Like I was asking around, I remember, and this is again like one of the great things about like the community that we build online. Like I know it's not everything, but that's also been one of the biggest parts, honestly, of the journey. Has been like building and being a part of this community that's come up not just around our podcast, but around like the sort of like left media environment in general. Everyone has been so incredibly helpful. Like, and I think that there's a bad rap that's given to sort of learning to be on the left, right? Like that there's a perspective or a perception that there's a lot of gatekeeping, right? And I think that to some degree I can understand that, but I also believe that like that can be different people presenting different ways of trying to teach others. If you will, like, and not everybody does it the same way, right?
Sure. Do you have an example you want to spell that out for?
Sure. Yeah. It's on the one hand, you could like, if somebody goes like, oh, what's wrong with Elon Musk? Right? There's one way to handle that, which is to be like, Elon Musk is like an impossibly rich fuck nugget. and like you're an asshole. Like you could be like that. And I don't think that that's even always wrong. I think you have to know who you're talking to, whether or not it's coming in good faith. But there's also a way to be like, Elon Musk like exploits workers and is also impossibly rich and does not like just want to distribute his wealth. And, you could go into it like being, presenting information and stuff. I remember that like in college, I think I made some kind of like a joke that was essentially like, that was like a gender essentialist kind of a thing. And I didn't realize it. And someone was really, really upset with me. Mm-hmm. And like, that's another one of those things that can teach you. Like for me, that was educational, honestly, was having someone like directly like call me out and go like fuck you, dude. Like that worked for me. So I don't know. I can't like fault anyone who wants to be like fuck you, dude. Because sometimes you hear fuck you, dude enough and you start to go like, oh no. Me? I don't know.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. I've found, being a new leftist myself, that I don't know. I perhaps I just have a good attitude about it, and I realize my place in things, and I try to find myself in spaces with leftists who are organizers, and again, diverse set of leftist voices that have existed and are not acting like they're trying to like skip over DSA or something weird like that. By like sort of knowing my place and acting accordingly, I haven't found any issues sort of joining the left. I found welcome and open arms. Yeah.
Yeah. I've found the same, like whenever, but that's where I found out about that book. Like I just wrote out like, hey, I like want there to be like a graphic novel version of Capital. Does this exist? And I got, some recommendations, and that was one of them. Yeah. And that's like, that's so cool. Like I feel like sometimes like the left is like almost like a Yahoo Answers. It's just that sometimes the Yahoo answer is fuck you. But I also, but I don't think that like that should be, you can get that anywhere.
I've got to get this book. Awesome. All right, let's keep moving forward. I want to keep pushing forward. Actually, hold on. I want to make sure we've exhausted this portion. Anything left? Anything else that pulled your heart and your mind to the left that you wanted to make sure you brought that we mentioned today? Just want to make sure we didn't leave anything out.
Well, it's always seemed like it's funny. Like something that pulled me, no, but I think that the moment I felt like I understood it the most was campaigning or canvassing for Bernie in South Carolina. And I remember a guy asked me, we went up to his house and he started fixing his car like while we were talking to him, and he just like told us to follow him while he was working on his car. And he like said, give us the pitch, right? And we gave him our best pitch, like we had been doing it all day. And he just asked, like, does he follow like the teachings of Jesus? And I thought about it for a minute. And I was like, well, he's a Jewish man, and I started talking about like the idea of like washing another's feet, right? Like that's part of like the teachings of Christianity, of Jesus, as I understand it. And I was thinking about like, who else among this like slate of candidates would ever deign to like wash his fellow man's feet? You know, who would help another out just because that's like the right thing to do, because you can? And to me, that's what I'm not a religious person, but like,
no.
To me, that's what it's about. You know, that's what I got out of comic books. You know, that's what I get out of being a leftist, I guess, is like, there are a couple of right things to do to me, and everything beyond that can be pretty simple.
Yeah, Pete. Okay. Now we get to move forward to hashtag be best. Hashtag be best, Pete. All right. So if you could look back at your life, distill it into some tidy life advice, perhaps you could think about going back in time and talking to a younger version of yourself, if that helps. Otherwise, perhaps like leftism, related advice would be cool. Either or both. Yeah.
Well, one thing, ask questions. Mm-hmm. Always, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. And I mean that in a lot of different ways. Confronting a lot of, honestly, a lot of my, like, sort of more radicalization, if you will, move comes from the workplace. And I think that that's not uncommon. That, like, it's not so much always about theoretical understanding of, like, how society is ordered, but more so, like, what has your experience been? Like, what was it in your workplace that made you realize that, like, bosses don't care about you? What made you realize that your landlord had, like, way too much power over your, like, life and death, like, kind of situation? Like, oh wow, like, there's a leak, and now, like, I mean, that's not a life and death, but anyway. But, like, these are the things that will push you. And I think that when you ask people about, like, what they want, when you're, like, canvassing, right? Talking to people about their work and the experiences that they have in their work is huge. I also think that confronting, like, racism and sexism can also be aided by asking questions. One of my favorite things to do when I hear, like, a joke or some kind of, like, remark that I don't fucking like, and I can get, like, pissed. I can get pretty pissed. I try and take that and stow it and go, like, hey, why is that funny?
How is that funny? Yeah.
Like,
yeah, put it on them. I love it. Good bit.
Act like you're 5 years old and go, like, I don't get it. Like, what's the joke? And if you put it on them to kind of challenge some of those usually stereotypes, usually like, socialized assumptions about, like, different groups of people, you get sort of, like, at the very least, you're probably not going to hear too much of that in the future. I mean, that may just be sparing you, but, like, you do what you can to, like, I guess, like, hippies used to call it, like, freaking people out. But, like, you do what you can to kind of, like, challenge perceptions, I think, because unfortunately, I don't think that, like, strong social bonds and solidarity are the most popular beliefs, right? Like, they're not necessarily the mainstream. And that's unfortunate. That's something that we have to challenge. There's obviously a lot of debate right now, from things like that CIA video, that like the question of like the hegemonic power of the left, right? And that does not exist. But I digress. I recommend asking questions whenever possible. Yeah.
Awesome. Asking questions. And that's what I'm just doing here. I'm just asking questions here, Pete. Yeah.
Just asking questions.
That is excellent advice. Yeah. Oftentimes people don't know when to shut the fuck up and listen. And oftentimes that requires asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Now we've come to the Leftist Inquisition. Pete, this is the questionnaire. And everyone loves it. And literally no one hates it. And you're encouraged, Pete, for any reason to pass or skip any question.
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready for this.
Awesome. First question, Pete. What's your favorite word?
I think the first thing that came to mind was acquisition, but I think that's because I just saw Inquisition. Lately, I've been liking the word tense.
Tense, like to pitch a tent, or to like intense.
TENSE, but I like
proper
that
tense.
It can be used like, like it's also to describe like a condition, like you're in a tense state of being, but it could be like the plural of tense. I don't know. It's a good one.
Do you have a least favorite word?
Anything with a G. The letter G is a disgusting letter. I think that we've outlived our need for G. I think we need, first of all, to get it out of the word right and like tight. The GHT thing is like probably some sort of holdover from medieval times.
Yeah.
And we're better. We're doing better. We don't need it anymore.
We can move past it. We're done with those. Do you, Pete, have a favorite drug, a favorite vice, or guilty pleasure? If you like, you can name one of each.
Well, I'm a weed man.
Yes,
I've been known to smoke. Yes. Fatties. My favorite thing to do is to like talk about weed like someone who has no idea what it is.
Yes. Is that your guilty pleasure? Is that your vice? I'm joking.
I'm definitely not guilty about it. I mean, here's the thing that like when I'm filling out, I've been found guilty of it. Or have pled guilty to it. Yeah. But, I actually, there's a funny brief story, but like when I did get arrested for having like a tiny, like this amount of weed in my car. I had to do 12 months probation, but like, yep. And I had to write a letter at the end of it talking about what I had learned. And honestly,
what you learned, yeah. Go on. Yeah, so
the thing I learned was that I got off easy. Because it could have gone way different. And that, that was also part. It's everything, every interaction you have with the state and capital and everything can be a part of that leftward journey to me. Mm-hmm. So like, it's hard to know what fits in where, but like, yeah, just a fun story about learning about the law. And guess what? I mean, I smoke to this day, so I didn't learn not to smoke.
Exactly. Hold on, let's do this for the thumbnail, Pete.
Pretty good.
Beautiful. It's in there somewhere. Awesome, Pete.
We'll find it.
Yeah. Next question. Hold on. Did we? Yeah, we did all the drug, vice, guilty pleasure. We got. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, what sound or noise do you love?
Ooh. You know that thing of where like you have like a violin that goes like, dun, 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 dun. Like where like the what do they call it? The part that like, you know, the it's not a reed, but where it kind of
bow?
like bounces. Yes, the bow bounces on the strings. I love that.
Oh, you love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's good. When that happens, I'm like, yes.
That's a good one. Very unique. Haven't heard that one. Points for originality. Yeah. Do you have a sound or noise that you hate? Or if you get hung up on the word hate, something you intensely dislike?
I'm trying not to think about hard candy.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know what? I'm gonna pass. Right now, the sound that bothers me the most is my young little cat son. He likes to wake me up. Yeah. So like, sometimes that's a resentful noise.
They whine like babies, and they match that frequency on purpose. I've been told.
Yes, babies, and dude. Like it's so insidious. He must know what he's doing.
Oh yeah. They're toying with you. They're playing with you.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what is your favorite cheese? And I do believe you get one answer to this question because I don't remember you saying you weren't raised in Wisconsin, were you?
Nope. Georgia boy.
Georgia, that's right. Atlanta, my gosh, I can't pay attention. All right, you get one answer unless you break the rules. Pete, what's your favorite cheese?
Havarti.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's delicious cheese.
Every time. If you haven't had Havarti, anybody, you gotta try it. It's the cheese of kings.
Great on a sando.
Soft.
Yes. All right, dude. Love a cheese talk. Next.
Okay.
Pete, if you could come back as a plant or a non-human animal and be reincarnated, what would you choose if given the option to choose?
You know, I like some of those like rainforest guys with like, I like tarsiers, but like I like any of the ones that have like sticky hands. So like a frog would probably be good too.
All right, I just had to look up tarsiers. It's these little monkey-looking dudes, these giant fucking eyeballs, huh?
Yeah. Holy and they got smokes. Like little hands.
They got these
tarsiers are pretty good. I like a raccoon too. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. You know, I would also be curious about like a dog's life.
Yeah.
You ever hear from someone who would want to be a giraffe?
I haven't heard giraffe yet. I don't think I've heard giraffe.
No, that's just like, I would love to be 6'2". I don't need all that neck.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah. They have really high blood pressure too. Because they got to pump that blood all the way up the neck to their brains.
Oh.
Yeah, think about that.
Huh.
Yeah. All right, Pete. Think about it. That's your homework. Pete, now let's say at the end of your life you go to heaven and you're at the pearly gates or whatever, and there's God, and God starts speaking to you. What would you like to hear God say?
I think I'd want him to mostly ignore me while I sneak in with the person in front of me. Like I feel like if he said like the name isn't on the list, but like because of the technicality, let me in. Maybe he could say like, hold on, I have to take this, and he would like leave to be on his cell phone, and in that like brief period of time while he's like got his back turned, I would be able to get in.
Points for originality.
Pete. Always.
All right, who's an influential leftist, and they could be dead or alive, that you would love to be able to meet, have a hypothetical conversation maybe, and feel free to let us know how that might go.
Well, you know, I guess Tim Robbins is a bit of like a lefty from Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I'd like to meet him. He seems like an interesting guy, like an interesting mind.
He's a lefty? What do you mean? Yeah.
Apparently he is.
Okay.
Wait, is this the same guy?
Yeah. Tim Robbins.
That's him.
Yeah.
That's the one. I feel like he'd be an interesting guy. Who else? Gramsci. Gramsci would probably be pretty cool. Like I appreciate his kind of like
glasses.
His take.
Sorry.
Yeah. I appreciate his kind of like outlook. Who else? I mean, Guy Debord seems like he would be pretty cool if for no other reason than the never work. I know a little bit more about him because, like, I mean, honestly, a lot of these guys I know through Aaron.
Yeah.
Like, Aaron's the guy who knows, like, the history, and, like, he can go on, and, like, I'll just listen to that. You know, a lot of the best leftists that I would want to meet, I already know.
Based. Love it. That's good stuff right there. Okay. Now, the last question, I have a few left, actually. I'm sorry. Do you have a favorite leftist book or author or a resource or anything like that?
It's that Illustrated Capital.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm so stoked to get it. I'm wondering, I think I'd like to do a little reading of it in the morning. I've been doing that on my stream. It's been enjoyable.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I just like to act like I read. Try to prove to people, try to convince people to actually read books. Okay. That Illustrated Marks. Awesome.
Do you think you'd be more receptive to books if they're in like the e-format? What is your preferred book format if you had to choose?
I don't know. I like them all. You know, I like being able to do stuff. I mean, because I have been reading literally on screen. I'll put it up on the screen. So if I have a PDF or whatever, I'm able to do that. That's nice. I do love having a physical book. Just personally, it's nice. And I love also having it on. I want them all. Like, let me have them all.
You do.
Why can't I buy a book and they give me? I like an audiobook too.
They should come like all packaged.
I know, right? Come on. They totally missed the missed that. They totally could have given us that. Yeah, like you go to buy a book, they're like, well, you can buy this or you can buy the upgrade. It's like you can supersize it.
Oh,
you want to supersize your book?
DLC.
Yeah. You want to supersize your book. Okay.
Yeah.
We just thought that was fucking brilliant right there. We just had a stroke of brilliance. That's our $1 million idea, Pete.
Is a book multimedia book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pete, do you have any content creation advice? This specifically asks for streamer advice. You can ignore that. I still got to change that. Yeah. So in terms of content creation, you do podcasts, a lot about other things as well. What do you think is important for people to know as they're making it? Yeah.
As they're making it. Try not to lose it over like quality. Do your best to like rein yourself in. If you need to take breaks, do that. Like, one thing that I would definitely recommend is if you're like stressing out about like say you're doing a podcast and you are like, let's say, just as a wild example, definitely hypothetical, that you are on like the 48th hour of like staying up all night trying to like create the perfect like podcast like set of effects, right? Go to sleep. First of all, go to sleep, but also know when to step away, know when it's good enough, know when a thing that you want to fix isn't fixable, and you just keep it. Save often. Don't rely on the autosave. Make sure you're saving all the time. These are just things that I've picked up just doing the podcast, but I've been making videos since I was like a kid. And yeah, just like, what is it? Like, great is the enemy of good, or is it good is the enemy of great? I don't know. But like,
perfect is the enemy of good enough or something like, yeah, I don't know.
I
was looking at it the other day, yeah.
But like, we all know what it means. Mm-hmm. But like, I believe in that. Like, I struggle to enact it in like my own life. Like, I'll spend like 30 minutes on like a 1 second segment of the podcast. Like, if you saw some of the audition files, you'd lose your mind. But like, it's something that like I need to work on. And I think that to other like content creators, it's probably good enough. Like, it's probably fine. That's I think what I would say.
Awesome. Know when to walk away. Save often. Beautiful stuff there. Great advice. Excellent advice, Pete. It's been a blast chatting with you. What I want to do is, if you happen to have any questions for me, we can do that. Chat. This is your time to ask questions. I'll look back in the chat if you had any questions from before. Pete, you can ignore any question you don't want to answer, pass, skip, whatever. And again, if you happen to have any questions, you can ask me. But question for you, Pete, from the chat. Who's the master who makes the grass green? What? Does that mean anything to you? What the fuck does that mean? I'm going to ban someone. All right.
That sounds cool.
Sounds cool.
It sounds almost like post-Lovecraftian, like some Yellow King stuff.
I thought maybe you knew what they were talking about. I had no idea. We just got to...
I'm probably going to regret not knowing it. It sounds like a riddle.
It feels like a riddle, yeah. I feel like I'm in Die Hard 4 with... Okay.
Is the Riddler in that?
No. Sorry. It's I'm not even sure if I named that Die Hard correctly. All right, we have a question. Thoughts? How left was W.E.B. Du Bois? I don't. Do you have?
How left was W.E.B.
Du Bois? I don't. I'm only tangentially aware. I think he's relatively left. I just don't know.
I would say fairly. I know that. I know I've heard some quotes on our show from him. Not sure. That's the thing, is like, I'm not necessarily the history or the theory guy.
Wikipedia says socialist, for what it's worth.
Well, there you go.
For what it's worth.
So I would say that he is in the socialist category.
Left. Could be farther left, but I don't know. We never got to ask Du Bois. I never got to ask Du Bois if they wanted to abolish the state. And yeah. Does he have Twitter?
That would be a get.
That'd be a good one. Big get for the show. Okay. Good idea. Yeah. Thank you for that suggestion. Pete, Well, hold on. I just want to give chat a little bit more of an opportunity to ask you anything. Otherwise, I don't know. I got a couple minutes if you do. What's on your mind? What's grinding your gears?
Yeah. I was thinking about like walking around earlier because it's a really nice day outside. But like, have you done one of these with someone who was like walking around?
You mean like IRL, like in real life? No, not yet.
Like, are they almost always on like a laptop, good webcam?
You mean like my show? This is it. This is the show. I mean, this is what it's been so far.
Has someone done one of these while they're like walking around on their phone?
I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking.
Like I'm sitting in my room right now. Have you seen one where like someone is like walking around outside?
One of my guests. Yeah, so I had an IRL guest. It was touring news, and Brad showed us a lot around their urban farm in Cleveland.
Oh, that's
and it was
cool.
Pretty cool. Otherwise, it's just just pretty much sort of what we're doing. Yeah.
I really like videos where like people are walking and talking.
Yeah,
like the self-facing camera and like walking and talking. For some reason, those like that kind of video is very endearing to me.
Yeah, they call that style IRL streams. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna mark that down because like I do a character whose his name is Pete from YouTube, but I don't post any videos on YouTube. He's basically a guy who's trying to understand social media. And I like to do those kinds of videos because, and take some information or inspiration from IRL streamers. All right. I'm going to have to look into that.
I've thought about doing some of that. Obviously, that was all put on hold during COVID.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I want to do that. I think it would be really cool. And to try to do interviews, I don't know exactly how I would be able to do it because effectively you need like a videographer if you're going to be like interviewing other people. That's what it seems like how other people do it. Otherwise, I think it's important to have one of those, it's called a gimbal, just keeps the video nice and steady. I just can't stand to watch IRL videos anymore without that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get to a point where your standards get to be super high. Same with streaming. Like if the audio's off or the video's, it's usually audio. Leftist audio is what we make fun of. Yeah. But you don't have a problem with that because you're a leftist audio producer. You're not who we're making fun of.
I do my best. I'm not, like I've said, I'm not an audio first guy, but I hope that people, when they listen to the show, it's friendly to the ear.
That's, cool. I used to do voiceovers, and I would have to edit my own stuff, and you're fucking forced to learn a lot along the way for sure.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Pete, I think it's a great time to wrap it up, actually.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, go ahead and give yourself the big shout out again. Tell people what you do, who you are, and where they can find you on the World Wide Web.
All right. Well, I am Pete Ivanecky. I am the producer on Atom Pod, which is A Time of Monsters, and it's a podcast, hence Atom Pod. It is a leftist podcast out of Atlanta, Georgia, with Aaron Thorpe, also known as Thaddeus Stevens. And you can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We've got a Patreon. If we can check out the Patreon and subscribe, we do weekly updates as well as interviews. So every week we're trying to put out 2 episodes. The weekly updates are a little bit more casual. I'm on them, and our friend Alex is on them. Sometimes we do interviews on there, but that's perhaps more of like the chat style. Like there's a few shows like the Chapo kind of thing, so we do that. But the main show is like in-depth interviews with like journalists and organizers and some big names. We've got an episode with Ryan Grimm today, which is it's a really solid episode. So like we just keep doing it. The episodes keep getting better, and I hope people enjoy it.
All right, Pete, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We invited you in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. You've been a wonderful guest. Really hoping we get to follow up with you soon.
Hell yeah.
And visit these seeds that we've planted, and plant some new seeds next time, and keeping it going. Next time we can ditch the format. We could just chat it up, buddy. How about that?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Well,
right.
Pete,
Thanks,
thank
Dan.
you again for being with me. Peace and solidarity. See you next time.
Peace. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Oh, that's okay. That's my fault. Don't worry about that, Pete. I know. Oh, every time. Pete Ivanecky. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.